Hey everyone, and welcome back. I'm Theresa if you're new to my channel. If you're thinking about buying or selling a home, you've probably heard the term buyer market or seller's market thrown around, but what do they really mean? And in today's video, we're not gonna just break down the key differences. We are going to do a deep dive on the single most important metric for understanding the market, which is months of inventory. So by the end of this video, you'll know not only how to tell what kind of market you're in, but you'll also be able to educate yourself and calculate the number. Okay, so let's talk about some basics. First, let's get a handle on the fundamental difference between a buyer's market and a seller's market. It all comes down to one simple economic principle: supply and demand. Now, a seller's market is when there are more people looking to buy a home than there are homes available for sale. Think of it as a low inventory, high demand situation. Sellers have the advantage, often receiving multiple offers, and homes sell quickly and sometimes for over the asking price. Now, a buyer's market is the opposite. There are more homes for sale than there are people ready to buy, and the supply of homes is high and the demand is lower. This gives the buyers an advantage with more options to choose from and greater negotiation power, and homes tend to stay on the market a little longer, and price reductions are more common as well. So a quick way to tell is to take a look at the monthly charts that I publish on my website. So if you take a look here at the screen, I am actually under local market stats, San Jose market data. And if you scroll down, you'll see an actual chart with some history on the market. Now, supply, or also known as inventory, or sometimes called the number of homes per sale, is the yellow line. Demand, or how many buyers are making a purchase, is the green bar at the bottom. So when there is no gap between the lines, the market is a very strong seller's market. You can see that here in 2023 and 2024, as well as in the pandemic years of 2020 and 2021. Those were really strong, intense markets, but you can now see the yellow line is higher, and so that means there's a little more supply than there are buyers out making purchases. So how can you spot the difference? Well, there's a few key indicators to watch. The first is months of inventory, which we introduced at the beginning. This is a really big one, and we'll dive into it in a second. It's an estimate basically of how long it will take to sell all the homes on the market at the current sales pace. Generally, anything below 3 or 4 months of inventory is considered a seller's market, and anything above that, a buyer's market. In between, we call a neutral market or a transitioning market. Now, the other metric to watch is days on market. How long are homes sitting on the market? In a seller's market, houses can get offers in just days, maybe multiple offers. And in a buyer's market, you'll see listings linger for weeks or even months. The third metric to watch are pricing trends. Are homes consistently selling at or above their asking price? That's a strong sign of a seller's market. If you see frequent price reductions, it's a good indicator of a buyer's market. I keep this chart here where I calculate the difference between the average sales price to list price percentage and the average price to give a visual of the intensity of overbidding in the market. Now you can see here there is a huge gap between the orange and red lines in 2021 and into early 2022. You also may notice that the gap tends to be larger mid-year, and typically there is no gap by the time we get to November and December. You see this cyclical factor here. Now obviously it's not always the case. Now 2025 started off with a really strong seller's market, and the price overbidding was so noticeable that you see this big giant gap here. But if you listen to my August 2025 market update that published last week, then you know that the market is no longer in that situation. And you can also see that here on this chart with the red and orange lines having converged, showing the same result. So the overbidding pretty much non-existent, right? You see that right there on the chart. Now let's get into the nitty-gritty of how to calculate the most important metric, months of inventory. It's actually a very simple formula. The months of inventory is the number of active listings divided by the number of homes sold in a month. So let's use a quick example with real data. In mid-August 2025, San Jose has 584 single-family homes currently for sale. Now, if I pull the data from July 1 to July 31st in 2025, there were 375 single-family home sales closed. So that would be 584 divided by 375, which equals 1.5 months of inventory. So based on our rule of thumb, with 1.5 months of inventory, this is a seller's market. The supply is just barely keeping up with the demand. Now, let's calculate the same for condos and townhomes in San Jose. In mid-August 2025, San Jose has 425 condos and townhomes for sale. And from July 1st to 31st of 2025, last month, 133 condos and townhomes closed. So that would be 425 divided by 133, which equals 3.2 months of inventory. So based on our rule of thumb, this 3.2 months of inventory is a slight seller heading to a neutral market, and the demand is lower than the supply. So as you can tell, there's going to be different markets with different types of properties, but also different markets in small local areas. We were doing all of San Jose, which you know is a huge area. It's really important to know the immediate area. This is what the months of inventory looks like over time. This chart shows the months of inventory. The blue line has fluctuated all across Santa Clara County up and down. And I'm showing this countywide chart to you since I have data that goes all the way back to the year 2000. You can see how the market has shifted from a buyer's market when the line is above 4 months to a seller's market when it drops below those 3 months. Now, this visual is a fantastic way to see the trend and forecast where the market might be heading. But you can also see in 2005, the yellow inventory line started heading way up. And in 2006, the gap between the green sales bar at the bottom and the yellow line grew bigger, with each metric heading in completely opposite directions. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the video, for a quick visual, check on the market by taking a look at the green and yellow lines and see how big of a gap there is between that inventory yellow line or supply versus the green sales or demand bar. So right now, let's talk as if you were a home buyer, because you might ask yourself, how do I know if it's a good time to buy a house? Well, a buyer's market is often seen as a great time to buy because you have more choices, less competition, better leverage to negotiate on price and terms. But the market is not always aligned with your plans. And as you saw in the chart, Santa Clara County has been a seller's market since 2012. In those times as a buyer, you likely want to know, what should my strategy be in a seller's market? So if you're a buyer in a hot market, you need to be prepared. Get pre-approved for a mortgage so your offer is strong, act fast when you find a home you love, and be ready to make a competitive offer against several other interested buyers. So you're gonna need to ask yourself, how can you make your offer stand out to the seller? Because that's what a seller's market is. They have choice and they have the advantage. So you need to do what you can to stick out. Now, on the flip side, let's look at it from a seller's perspective. How can I tell if my home will sell quickly? That's something you might want to know. Well, you'll know if it's a seller's market if you're seeing low inventory in your area and your neighbors' homes are selling really quickly with multiple offers. It's an ideal time to list and sell during a seller's market to get top dollar. Once again, the market conditions don't always align with your personal plans. So what's the best way to price your home in a buyer's market? Well, this is where strategy is key. In a buyer's market, you need to be realistic with your pricing to attract interest. You need to know about the competition and what is happening with their home sale and leverage this insight. Also, make sure your home is in great condition and consider small upgrades that make it stand out from the local competition. Understanding the months of inventory for your specific neighborhood is the best way to make an informed decision on how to respond in the current market. I love leveraging my 20 years experience in real estate and my engineering education to understand the real estate data to guide my clients with real information. So if you have more questions about a San Jose or Santa Clara County area neighborhood, feel free to drop your comments below or reach out to set up a time to talk with me personally. You see the QR code above will get you a calendar link, or you can check out the link below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe for more real San Jose area data and real estate tips. See you next time.